bro. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so one in the chat for who those have that have written a structured IUL. Like someone was looking for maximum cash value. Harmon, Killian, Barbara, Chloe, Peyton, Eli. Awesome. I'd love to see a few of us at least have done that. That's perfect. We're gonna be going over essentially the difference between the IUL when you structure it for cash value versus a permanent death benefit, just maximum death benefit, right? What's the difference? Which one's better? How do we actually do that? And which type of clients is it going to make more sense to do one or the other for? So I'm going to dive into that. Before we go into that, does anyone have any type of just like basic questions about how the IUL works or anything like that? Because I'm also going to give a brief description of how I explain the policies to clients and to agents.
Yeah, I
I
got
would
a
Quick.
really
question.
appreciate it if you do.
Yeah, absolutely. No worries. Killian, you have a question, bro?
Yeah. How do you go about pivoting? Like once you find somebody can't, like what's your kind of basis? Obviously you put it out there, hey, it is hard to qualify for, but what's your like pivot verbiage?
So you're saying like, how do I pivot after I know they don't qualify?
Yeah.
Okay. So it depends on what they were looking for. If they were just looking for a permanent death benefit, hey, we have a product that works essentially has all the same benefits as the IUL, permanent life insurance. It's a permanent death benefit, it has living benefits, it has cash value growing it. Uh, we're gonna go ahead and look at that type of product for you right now, and it's gonna work on the same type of basis and still gonna make sure you have the family protect because you told me that was your goal. So if they're looking for cash value purposes, I'll be honest with them. I'm not gonna lead anybody on and sell them a $500 a month whole life policy, final expense, and convince them that's gonna be the best thing to their cash value. I'm gonna be honest with them, and I'll ask them what they have for their life insurance. See if I can just make sense to get them extra protection, and then ask them about if they have retirement accounts, what they're putting money away into. Maybe we can do a flexible annuity. Maybe I can do a rollover. That's the type of question they'll ask about. I'll pivot straight to a whole life, let them know that it has all the same benefits. So I'm going to be getting into just what is an IUL. It's an indexed universal life insurance policy. These products are growing. The cash value is growing with the index of the market. So they're indexing with most of the time the S&P 500. And what that means is when it's indexing, it's actually participating in the market gains, it does not participate in the market losses. That is a huge, huge thing to know and to explain to the client when you're explaining how an IUL works. Because that's what's one of the biggest upsides. The difference between the whole life and the IUL is essentially just with the cost of insurance and how the cash value grows. Whole life insurance has a set level cost of insurance every single year until about age 99. And if you're 45 years old, you can pay every premium you'll ever pay for the next 54 years till you're 99. You could pay that all up front in the first couple years with most participating whole life policies with dividends like Foresters, NLG. Traditional final expense, a little bit different. You can still kind of do things like that, but you're not going to have anyone that is looking for that. But essentially, with the whole life, it has a set cost of insurance every year. It's a level cost of insurance. IULs actually go up in cost of insurance as time goes on. But since we are having that cash value grow with the market, it's compounding every single year, 8% or more on average of what we're seeing in the actual, looking at the statistics of how the market's been performing with, NLG, the US Paysetter, for example. That cost of insurance might be going up. We're also earning significantly more cash every year in the policy as we're compounding. All right, so that will actually offset, and we're still able to have level premiums with this policy and have the clients to not be expecting to pay 10 times the rate in 20, 30 years from now. We're still able to give people level premiums, level death benefits with these, and that's no problem. The cash value, since it's growing with the market, we're able to obviously capture higher interest than a fixed whole life, where it's about typically 3 to 5% is what you're going to see on the cash value growing in whole life policies. It's a fixed rate. So the biggest difference is whole life grows at a fixed rate, IULs grow with the market in terms of the cash value, the equity it's building. It's going to be a little bit different. That's why I like the IUL so much to use as an investment vehicle. I never tell people it's a direct investment What does that imply when you say, this is an investment? It means you can essentially lose money. You're putting risk to earn a reward. With the IUL, we're not essentially putting much money at risk. We're not putting any money at risk because there's no direct market loss that you can lose in your cash value. It's really just the gains you get credited once a year based off the performance of the market that year from January 1st, 2025 to January 1st, 2026. You'll get credited whatever the market was. If it's up 5%, up 10%, if it's negative at all, it's just a 0% crediting to your account. You don't lose anything. It's a break even year. Does that make sense? Just the difference between the whole life and the IUL, just how the cash value grows? Perfect. So how I like to explain IULs to clients when I'm speaking to them is I just go over three different components of the policy. They're very, very simple to explain, and that's why, like Killian, what you were mentioning earlier about pivoting, when you explain just these three topics, you don't start diving so much into the policy and try to, teach this client that you just met, how to sell an IUL. You're telling them too much information. Very, very simple if you dumb it down. A lot of the times, simpler is the better. So I explained the death benefit, the living benefits, and the cash value. Just those three things, and you can essentially sum up the entire policy. So the death benefit I'll mention, this is a permanent death benefit. Does not expire. As long as you're making your premium, as long as as long as the cost of insurance is paid for, the the death benefit's not going to expire on you. Now, with that death benefit, it pays out tax-free to your beneficiary. There's no waiting period on the policy. So God forbid something happened to you a month after you set the policy up, it's still going to pay out in full to your beneficiary. And again, 100% tax-free. I asked the client, does that make sense? Awesome. Now, if you haven't already asked the client what they have that, is currently in their portfolio, that's their life insurance, if they have any term, any other whole life policies, if they have anything to the job, now's a great time to ask when you're explaining how the death benefit works. So you say, hey, the death benefit, does that make sense? Yes, awesome. And let me ask you real quick. Most clients I work with, they typically have 2, maybe 3 life insurance policies already by the time I get to speak with them. How many do you have right now? You have one through the job. Okay, you have 2 policies. Is one of them through the job, or are they both private? Okay, yeah, one's through the job. How long ago did you get that one set up? If you mind me asking. Okay, if it's term insurance, permanent insurance, is it similar to this where it's permanent? Okay, awesome. I'm not looking to get all the details right there. I just want to get a good idea if they have any life insurance right there or not. Because if they say no or they only have term, it's a very easy value builder. It's like, oh, well, this is permanent life insurance, right? So it sounds like it's gonna have a lot of value to you because everyone should have permanent life insurance, right? When you're building a building, anyone who's ever been in construction before, put a 1 in the chat. If you ever worked construction, Harmon, you've worked construction. So you already know if you have a weak foundation, you're gonna have a weak building. That's a big liability. The weak foundation, that's the same as having only term insurance, in my opinion. If you don't have a good, strong foundation of a permanent policy, what are you building on? A term policy is great for where you're looking to build on top of your foundation, maybe to get a policy specifically to cover, a couple years of income because you work a dangerous job, to cover the mortgage, to cover high liability periods. That's great. But where's your permanent insurance? So either whole life, IUL, that's a very easy value builder, and to ask them what they have that is their life insurance, and then obviously what they have that maybe acts as life insurance. I kind of ask that when I'm explaining the cash value, but I digress. That's how I explain the death benefit, just permanent life insurance. Great. Now, the living benefits, it's a little bit different. That is essentially where you're going to be able to access that death benefit while you're alive, right? So that's why it's called life insurance. It's not death insurance. You're going to be able to use this policy while you're alive. So God forbid you have a chronic or a terminal illness, even a critical injury, you will be able to access that death benefit while you're alive to cover living expenses, hospital expenses, to replace your income. That will make sure that there's food on the table if you're not working. And I asked them right there. Again, I like to stop and ask a couple questions while I'm explaining these 3 components to the client. because this is where you're going to be able to, again, just have those easy value builders on top of what you're saying. So after I explain the living benefits, just very simply, you can use this while you're alive. If you get sick, injured, there's available cash for you immediately to use. There's no waiting period for that either. Now, let me ask you, God forbid you were to get sick, injured today, do you have an immediate backup source of income? Do you have anything that you could replace your income with immediately? I just like wait for a response. Most of the time, it's no. I do see with the veterans typically that are like 100% disabled or getting some type of guaranteed VA check no matter what. Um, or anyone on a fixed income, it applies a little bit less to them because if they're not working, they're getting it's a guaranteed check every month. But for the individuals that are working and they rely on that check to come in, the bills don't stop. We can all agree, bills don't care about your feelings. They're coming in no matter what. They don't care if you had a bad day. They don't care if you got cancer. If the income takes a pause, the bills don't stop. So God forbid you lost your income. God forbid you got sick or injured, man. Do you have a backup source of income you'd be able to use? No. Well, this sounds like it will add a lot of value to you. Well, this will be that backup source of income. So I'm happy that you were looking into this. I'm happy I got a hold of you. Great. Like, does that make sense? Perfect. Now that's the life insurance side, right? Now, just to kind of rewind, whenever I'm opening up the phone call with somebody, and everyone should learn to do this no matter what type of lead you're running. Hey, Malachi, this is Gershamiah. How you doing today? Yeah, awesome, man. Hey, I'm just following up with you regarding the IUL request you made. Looks like you were interested in some type of tax-free retirement building, but was that correct? Yeah, awesome, man. Hey, I just want to ask you, when you were first looking into this, what exactly was your primary objective? What were you actually looking to accomplish looking into this policy? Was it just for the life insurance side? Was it that retirement focus? Were you looking to do something else with it? What'd that look like for you? It's really important to get down to the why, because their why is the reason they buy. If you don't know why they want the policy, if you don't know their intentions, their goals, their emotions behind pressing the buttons to make a request, give you their personal info, and make this request for this policy, you're not going to get anywhere in the conversation. And I see there's a few things in the chat. I will answer them in a minute. Um, but essentially, that it's really important to know their why. So what I'm explaining now, they're the life insurance side and the cash value side. So that's the life insurance side. Now the cash value, this is essentially going to be a savings account attached to the policy. Now with a savings account, you're not necessarily worried about losing money. Are you just sitting in your savings account? Correct? Yes. Okay, well, the same applies to this, except it actually will capture market interest. It actually will participate in the market. So although you don't participate in the downside, you're not exposed to any risk. We are able to capture the upside of the market and earn significant returns. Now, with that cash value, since it's attached to life insurance, the IRS, Uncle Sam, he stays out of your pockets. So it will grow tax free. You can use the cash value tax free. And if they told me their goal was retirement in the beginning, I'm going to make sure to add, and this is how we're going to be able to have a tax free stream of income coming in when you're retired through this cash value. Does that make sense? Yes. It's not very crucial to explain every nitty gritty detail of it because that's just information overload. I'm not saying don't tell the client what's going on with the policy. Just give yourself some space. You don't even know if they qualify for it yet. Does that make sense? Now, let me answer a few of these questions I see because that's how I explain the IUL to really anybody. Okay, how does it replace their income? That's a good question, Anthony. So, how does it replace their income? The living benefits, what that is let's say we have $100,000 life insurance policy. It was a $100,000 death benefit. That's the face amount. If the client was to get critically, chronically, or terminally ill, even critically injured with some of the carriers like NLG, they will be able to access that death benefit immediately, right? And they can typically access 30 to about 80 to 90% of that death benefit, depending on the severity of their illness, depending on the severity of the injury. And that is all like clearly stated in the policy packet. You can always call the company and ask them like hypotheticals, hey, if the client got this type of condition, what would that qualify for? Da, 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 da. So that's how it could replace their income. Because if they're not working and they're stuck in the hospital because they got diagnosed with cancer, God forbid, where's their income coming from? Maybe they're a single mom, maybe they're a single dad, maybe there's no other, they're the main income earner, maybe they're the only income earner. What happens? They're paying the mortgage. They're paying for their kids' school. They're paying for their kids' food. Like what happens to that individual? So that's what we need to think about. The living benefits is going to allow them to access that death benefit, the life insurance money, and they can use that to cover their income, to cover the bills, cover the hospital expenses if they need to, and that's available immediately. Does that make sense, Anthony? Perfect. Eli, I see you have a long question. I'm going to answer that. Let me just get a little further into there because I definitely want to help you out with that. But, and then Harmon, what's your quick question, brother?
Yeah, man. So I've been working a lot trying to sell IULs. I really like the policy that it offers, all the, extra benefits and all that. I want to get into IULs more and write those for people that I'm related to and my friends and stuff. I feel like that's the best type of policy out there. You mentioned that it can replace income. Is that strictly for if they were diagnosed with a terminal illness, or is that how does that work? I didn't quite understand exactly what you meant. You said it just replaces income if everything kind of if shit hit the fan. How does that work?
I mean, um, like I just mentioned, I just answered Anthony's same question about this, about how the living benefits work. Same with term, same with whole life. I mean, it's the living benefits. You can access the death benefit if you have a qualifying illness or injury. So it can
Okay, got it.
replace their
Not like
income
a
because if they have access to $50,000, they can just receive that either in a lump sum, they can get paid monthly depending on what type of condition, illness, injury, and they'll use it to pay their bills, if they're not
Okay, so
working.
it's not like only medical, like there's obviously cash value, but
The
um
cash value, you don't
it
have to be sick to use. That's liquid after 12 months. They could use whatever's in there for whatever they
oh, okay.
want to, technically. I'm talking the
Okay.
death benefit, the actual life insurance they can use while they're alive for
Okay.
any critical, chronic, terminal illness, critical injury. And that
Okay.
and
Got
that's
it.
that's
Thank you so
not
much.
strictly IULs. Again, most of the products we sell are going to have living benefits. A lot of the term we do, like from America, they have living benefits with their term. No, they don't have to wait 5 years to use the cash value. I mean, they could use it after 12 months if they want to. It's liquid after 12 months, so they could do whatever they want with it. I mean, I don't
Okay, perfect.
recommend them to be using it so quickly, but
Yeah.
it's
Thank
available.
you.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Right, so that's how I explain the IUL, those three components. Once the client understands those few things, then that's where I'll get into underwriting. Because we all know it's a bit of a harder product to get qualified for, right? That's just how it is. So that being the case, you're going to ask them the same underwriting questions as you usually would anybody. And a really good um, tool that I've been using is a financial worksheet, which also includes information about their health. I would definitely be using tools like a financial worksheet, client worksheet, tools like the Integrity Connect portal where you do all the quick quoting. I would use things like that so you could take a little bit of brain power out and put their information in and really just get down to the bottom of if they're going to qualify or not. If you had a DUI in the past 5 years, that's a decline. Felony in the past 10 years, that's a decline. Yeah, I'm going to put that in the chat here, the financial worksheet. Um, if they had if if they don't have a driver's license, believe it or not, most of the time it's a decline, depending on the reason why. If they had any type of suspension with it, I know NLG is a little bit weird, where it's like I've had clients that just don't have an ID because they've never had one, and they'll still deny it because they don't have an active driver's license. So I'm not sure if it's just a guaranteed requirement or if there's certain conditions, but most of the time, if they don't have a driver's license, it's usually a decline.
What about through
Um,
America?
yeah, I mean,
Like,
even
say
on
you hit,
America, if you put no, they don't have a driver's license, doesn't it auto decline?
I think I recently just did that and it still got approved.
Perfect, then run them through America. They definitely can't get NLG,
Yeah.
and
But I mean,
usually you
America,
still want
I
to move either.
feel like America, like if you're looking to, set your client up in the best position possible for them to like build a cash value, I don't really think America is the best, even if you maximize the cash value. But
Exactly. All right, so I'm dropping this financial worksheet here in the chat. Everyone should be able to have access to it once it goes through, but let me know if it doesn't work. Okay. I've been using this for, I printed out like 100 sheets of these, and I've been using them for like almost every phone call I'm getting on. It's making things really organized for me. I'm able to not just have a bunch of scribbled notes on the page, it's making things very easy. So I would definitely recommend using that. Requested, did you get to send a request? Fuck. All right, I'll handle that in a minute. You can put the requests in. I'll approve all of them. Okay. Um, the underwriting pretty simple. If they don't qualify for the IUL because they said they're taking a whole bunch of medications, they had COPD, heart failure, serious issues. You're going to, I mean, if it's something you're not sure, I would definitely recommend checking out the Integrity Connect, the quick quote system. Who uses that system? I'm curious because I use it all the time. I wonder if anybody else does. Put something in the chat if you do because I'm curious. I think everyone should. I don't think enough people know about it, to be honest. Okay. If I wonder if I could put this in the chat and if the link will pop up. I'm gonna put this here. Everyone should definitely bookmark this. I mean, if you just go to Gateway and you go to Integrity Connect, it's right there. It's a free service. You don't have to pay for it. You just go to Quick Quote and you can do something for final expense, for term, for simplified IULs. And you'll just put in the client's information if they're what type of medications they're taking, what type of health conditions they have, and it'll tell you what they qualify for, and it'll only show you the companies that you're contracted with, so you're not seeing a bunch of random companies. Yeah, Edgar, use it every time. Keep doing it, brother. You're doing the right thing. All right. If they don't qualify, I'm going to give you a brief rundown of how to pivot. Very simple. If their goal was protection focus, or maybe they're just looking for a policy that can do both, I'll let them know, like, hey, just based off of that, we are going to still be able to look at a policy that has all those same three benefits. And that's why, I really do harp on explaining the IUL with those three concepts: death benefit, living benefit, cash value, and making it simple. Because if they don't qualify, what other product has those same exact benefits: permanent life insurance, living benefits, and cash value building? I mean, it's the whole life policy. It's still going to do the same thing. It's obviously going to be a little bit different where we're not going to be able to focus on that cash value and treat that like an investment vehicle and have retirement income out of that. It's a little bit different, but they're still going to have permanent life insurance, which again is an important foundation you need to build on your family's life insurance portfolio. Without something permanent or something that acts as permanent life insurance, you're not doing your job as an agent by telling them that's the right thing to do. So when you pivot from an IUL to whole life, let's know that's these same three benefits, and we're going to look at a policy that has those same three things for you. It's going to be a little bit different. We're going to look at this company over here. I'll give you a few different options. Let me ask you about the budget, what makes the most sense for you, and you're just going to sell them a whole life policy, a final expense policy. Make sure they have permanent coverage for themselves and their family. If they're looking for cash value specifically, and they don't need extra life insurance, they just want to use it for the cash value, that's when you can have a conversation with them, let them know, hey, maybe I want to connect you to one of my specialists, and you can get me on the phone and I'll explain to them how flexible annuity works with NLG specifically, where we can fund an annuity for as little as $100 a month. It's a very flexible premium annuity. So we could do something for as little as $100 a month with NLG, and it kind of works like an IUL, except you just subtract that death benefit from there. It's not a separate life insurance policy attached to your annuity. Just the money you're putting into it, you're not losing it. It's just growing with interest. That's essentially what it is. So maybe that makes sense for them. I've had to pivot to that a handful of times. Doesn't happen often, but for someone that doesn't qualify for an IUL, doesn't need life insurance, and they just want the cash value purposes because they like the idea of having their money grow for them without the risk of losing it, I'll explain to them how a flexible annuity works, and you can just connect them to me, and you'll see how the process works, and maybe you'll be able to explain it to them next time on your own. So I'm not going to get too much into that because you're barely ever going to run into that situation. But if you do, now you know what to do. Now, assuming they do qualify, flexible annuity. So F&G doesn't have a flexible annuity like this, Killian. That's the biggest thing. They don't have one like this. NLG, from my understanding, is the only company that will let you do like a flexible annuity to be able to fund it monthly for as little as $100 a month. With F&G, their Performance Pro, it requires some type of lump sum up front, and then you are able to put more money into it down the road, but it has to be at least, I think, like 2,000 or 2,400 for the year minimum. But yeah, now assuming they do qualify for the IUL, terrific. So how we typically fund these policies, all right, is about 5 to 10 times your age. That's the minimum recommended premium to put away. So that way you can have sufficient cash value building, and you can use this as a retirement policy down the line. So 5 to 10 times your age. That's what I always recommend for clients. I tell them that's the minimum. If they want to put more, great, but I wouldn't do less than 5 times your age, like minimum. So if someone's 50 years old, or let's say 45 years old, they want to put money away into an IUL, awesome. We'll look at anywhere from about 225 to 450 to contribution a month. And and then I explain to them how we structure it. Once we find a planned premium that you want to that's gonna be comfortable for you, the premiums are flexible, and I'll get into that with the client in just a minute. Hey, the premiums are very flexible, but what would be a good planned premium for you? Keep in mind that we want to do at least 5 to 10 times your age. So anywhere from 225 to like 450 kind of minimum. They're 45, and what makes the most sense for you for a planned premium where you can make this every month and it's not going to put a strain on your budget? And I'll explain to you how they're a little bit more flexible once we find a good planned premium for you. Find that planned premium, whether it's 250, 300, 400, whatever that looks like. Great. Now, we're going to minimize that death benefit as much as possible, because if you want to use this as a tax-free retirement vehicle, we're going to minimize the cost of insurance. When you're putting your money away into an IUL, your money's going into two different places: the cost of life insurance, the cash value account. If we're looking to get the most amount of cash value, obviously we want to minimize that cost of insurance so we can put more into the cash value. If the opposite is true and they want the most amount of permanent death benefit, awesome. We're gonna maximize the death benefit, and it's gonna minimize that cash value. So as little as possible into the cash value, and as much as possible towards that cost of insurance to get the most amount of permanent coverage. So when their goal is retirement focused, cash value focused, I'm always going to recommend the minimum death benefit, and I'm gonna structure that for you guys here in just a second. When we're doing that, we're minimizing the death benefit, maximizing the amount of cash value we're building by lowering the amount of fees we're paying, lowering the amount of cost of insurance we're paying. That way you are able to overfund the policy. You have a lot of flexibility to, if you're having a rough month, a rough quarter, a rough year financially, you're not stuck at that $500 a month premium you want to do. You can just pay the cost of insurance, kind of minimum, and make sure your policy's still healthy, still working in your favor, not lapsing, no risk. So I'm going to show you that here and how we're going to structure minimize death benefit cash value policy. I'm going to look at NLG. I just like NLG the most. They have
So I got
phenomenal
a
living
question
benefits.
real quick.
Yeah, what's up?
How do you explain the MEC numbers to a client?
So I'll explain that to them right now. As I'm structuring this, I'll answer that question.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, everyone can see my screen, correct? Bet. All right, so let's just keep it the way it is here. I'm talking about a 45-year-old, so make it easy. I gotta log in again. 1 second. Okay. All right, you should be able to see it again. Yep, thumbs up. You can see it. Bet. Okay, awesome. Let's go to Flex Life. That is their IUL. For anyone that's new that has NLG, if you see these NL, that's only for New York residents. Don't worry about those. Only do the ones like that don't have the NL next to it. The Rapid Protect is their new instant decision IUL. I've actually not wrote it yet. And it's just 'cause it's honestly it's a little bit expensive, but it's still I know it's a great policy. But if I'm going to write someone NLG, I'm just going to do a fully underwritten policy. All right, so 45 years old, not the Rapid Protect, the Flex Life, perfect. Now, when we're going to the death benefit and funding, this is actually a new tab this illustration solve. I still wouldn't worry about that. I don't put anything for the mech avoidance. It does it on its own. Guideline premium test, keep it the way it is. You should do minimum death benefit, max cash value, and then this death benefit option between level and increasing death benefit. Very easy way to understand this. A level death benefit is exactly how it sounds. It doesn't change. It's $500,000. It's going to stay that way from year 1, 2, 3, 4 until the maturity of the policy. That doesn't change. With an increasing death benefit, it actually starts off at a lot lower death benefit. And then as the cash value is building, that will also pay on top of that initial face amount. So I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by that. And why I always do increasing over level is that since it does start off at a smaller death benefit, meaning that we have a smaller cost of insurance as well. So I want the client to be paying the smallest cost of insurance every year of the policy that they have it. So therefore, I'm going to have an increasing death benefit from them starting from year 1. And then as we're done funding the policy, I'm only having them pay into these until about a average retirement age. We're going to treat it like a retirement policy. We're not going to be funding it until you're 100 years old. We're going to be funding it while you're working and then treat it like a retirement policy afterward. So until age 67, I want to be funding it. So at age 68, I want it changing into a level death benefit. That's what the change year is. Once we're not putting money into the policy anymore, having a level death benefit makes more sense because it just keeps the cost of insurance again as low as possible for the client. We're going to specify the amount we want to put in. The guy wants to put in, let's say, 10 times his age. He's 45 from year 1 until age 67. And then that's good to go. You don't need to do anything else to here. That is completely good. On here on the riders, it's important to have this death benefit protection checked off. Yes. Now I'll definitely show you why here. The death benefit protection, I showed them that as the minimum cost of insurance. That's the minimum guaranteed premium. As long as they're paying the minimum guaranteed premium every year, then the policy is not going to lapse. And it explains that in full when you click on here, death benefit protection. It ensures the policy will not lapse during that period. And depending on their age, let's say this guy's 45, is between the ages of 40 and 54, that death benefit protection period is going to be 20 years. So as long as he's paying that minimum guaranteed premium for the next however many years, It's guaranteed not to lapse for 20 years, no matter what. And that's even if the net cash surrender value is less than zero, even if it's negative cash value because you took a loan from the policy, can't pay it back, interest is getting charged on you, and you lost the money because you spent it on Gucci shoes and you lost your job. Hopefully no one does that, but people are not the brightest. There's no additional charge for this rider. It's a free rider, so it's just important to have it on there. Awesome. And now, Bartek, to answer your question, I don't know if you're still there, but to answer his question about the MEC premium, I have the client write down 4 numbers. So hey, I'm gonna have you write down these 4 things, and this is essentially all you need to know about the policy and to make sure you're treating it healthily. First, I'm gonna have you write down the minimum premium. I'll have them write down the initial face amount first. This is how much life insurance can be attached to the policy from day one. So from day one, it's gonna be $84,476 of life insurance. That's the initial face amount. The increasing death benefit just takes into account this number plus whatever the accumulated value is at that year. So this net death benefit takes into account this 84,476 plus whatever this number is at the time. So that's what the net death benefit calculates it. And that's why it's increasing year after year after year after year after year. Perfect. So I have them write down that's the initial face amount.
And
That's how
then
much
where
life
is the
insurance.
cash? The accumulated value is the cash, how much they're building. This is for the years of how long they have the policy, right?
Absolutely. So this is by the end of year one. They would have. I'll get into that in just a second. This is the accumulated value portion. This is surrender value. The only difference is that during the first 10 years of NLG's IUL, for other companies, it's actually more than 10 years, but for the first 10 years of NLG's IUL, there is a surrender charge for that surrender value account. You could see it's pretty minuscule by year 10, like $200.
That's if they wanted to cancel the policy, or if they wanted to
That's
pull
just
the
what they have
cash.
access to. So they have access to the full surrender value. That's what their
Okay,
account is worth. Let's say by the end of year one, their account value is 4,555. What they'd be able to access out of that is 2,678.
gotcha.
So we're about 50% liquid of the total that we put into it and what we have access to. And that's obviously taking into account the cost of insurance. So I have them write down this initial face amount. I have them write down this death benefit protection premium, just the minimum premium. 753, that's for the year. So that's a little over $60 a month. And then I have them write down the MEC premium. I said this is the maximum amount you can put in yearly. 6,396. So once they have those, and then I also have them write down the modal, like what the planned premium, so 450, and that's 5,400 for the year. So once they have those few numbers written down, I'll let them know like that's the type of flexibility we have on the policy. If you're having a hardship, a financial hardship, and you can't make that 450 a month, you're not contracted at 450 where if you don't pay that, the policy's over. That's not the case at all. So as long as you're paying that this minimum guaranteed premium year over year, again, your policy is not going to lapse. This is the plan premium, so you can put in anywhere from this, let's say $65, all the way up to a little over $500 a month. You have a lot of flexibility with these policies. You can underfund it, you can overfund it. He can decide to start putting in 300. He can decide to start putting in 200. But I'm showing them the premium outlay, the planned premium. What we want to be putting in is 450 a month. Right, I'm going to assume nothing's going to change from that. But if they want to put more money in, they absolutely can do that, and it's super easy to in the mobile app of NLG.
What if they go over the $6,396
So
a
that would,
yearly?
if they do that again, it's not easy to do that. Like NLG will like notify you, and they're going to like warn you not to do that. But when you do
Yeah.
that, MEC stands for Modified Endowment Contract. That, it just in simple terms, would just kind of lose the tax benefits of the IUL, the tax-free growth, and that aspect and liquidity of it. It would treat it more like
Hmm.
a 401k with 10% early withdrawal prior to the age of 59 and a half. It wouldn't grow tax-free, it would grow tax-deferred. and that'd be a big pain in the ass. The whole reason why we're getting the policy is for the tax-free aspect, the liquidity of the policy. So if we're breaking those MEC guidelines, someone didn't do their job correctly. But I would just add something like that. That's the maximum. You can put it in up to the dollar. Like, you can put in the full 63.96 every year. That's no problem. Just don't go over that. You're not going to want to put more than that. And if you see yourself wanting to put more than that in the future, I ask them, like, do you maybe foresee yourself wanting to put more than that every month? Maybe they're a young guy that's building in that's growing in their business, that's growing in their company, that's rising the ranks. They expect to have pay increases in the future and be able to afford more. There is something we can do. I did this for my own IUL as well because obviously I expect myself to continue making more and more money. I'll show you here in just a second what that would look like, but just keeping it the way it is right now. Because I know the guy says no, that's perfect. That's a lot of flexibility. That looks great. Okay, awesome. This illustration is showing a 6.8% interest rate. When you press run reports, you should still be able to see that. Yep. It's
What if they
loading.
want a lump sum?
If they want a lump sum, I don't always recommend a lump sum, but I'll show them what that would look like. But I usually kind of deter people from that, only because it depends how much they want to put into it up front, but it just raises the cost of insurance pretty high immediately. So it oftentimes doesn't make sense to do a lump sum, but if it's just like a few $1,000s, that wouldn't hurt. But and talking like $100,000, we would do something like very specific for that type of funding, where we would split it up over the course of 5 years, and I'll show you why. I show them the run reports here. I just go down to I don't know the page here. The hypothetical returns by strategy. So this is the U.S. Pacesetter point-to-point no cap participation rate is 260%, meaning if anyone took grade school math, you just move the decimal point over 2 places, and now that's 2.6 times more than what the market returns. Is what you get credited. That's the leverage you have in the market. If the market returns 10% that year, you're credited 26%. If the market returns 5%, you're doing 11.2%. You're getting 2.6 times more than what the market returns. That's the leverage we have. That's the participation rate. The no cap, that just means you're not capped at 8% a year. You're not capped at 10% a year. It's no caps on the upside. And it does have a 0% floor. So let's say we have this same type of setup and we're going back the last 20 years on this policy to see how it would have performed. It would have done pretty damn well. Looking at the 20-year average rate here is 14.81%. Are you kidding me? 14.81% year after year average? That's pretty damn good for money growing tax free. I would say so. That's pretty damn good. That's beating most investment accounts that you incur risk on and does not grow tax free. You're getting taxed on capital gains and income tax, right? So I like to show them that and let them know it's much better to under promise, over deliver than over promise, under deliver. And what I mean by that is by having this illustration at this lower interest rate and still having some phenomenal returns and still having some really great numbers to look at, we're doing you a favor because at the end of the day, this is assuming that the market kind of performs very subpar. All right, so really quickly, just to demonstrate what an income might look like off of something like that, it looks like they would have about $250,000 by the time they're looking to retire here. Age 68, about $250,000 sitting in here. And if you can see this premium outlay, it's going to be zero every year until maturity of the policy. We're not putting any more money in. There's no lapse year. The cost of insurance is paying for itself through the interest that we're growing year after year. So if we're all 1099, we're all business owners. You need to understand the difference between gross income or gross returns and net returns. We might be grossing 14% year after year in a policy. We might only be netting, let's say 10, 11. So netting 10, 11% after, again, those costs of insurance are taken out, that's still pretty damn good because now the policy's paying for itself and we're still earning interest on it tax free. We're not without putting more money into it. And then I like to show them a distribution of a lifetime income benefit. The lifetime income benefit, very simple. It's like an annuity, a guaranteed lifetime income rider, guaranteed to get paid out for the rest of your life on this policy, a lifetime income benefit. And that with that, it also does have no lapse guarantees when you turn that on. Like it's not going to lapse on the client. So let's say now age 68 till the maturity of the policy. Let's just see what that might look like. Okay. So they would have a tax-free stream of income for the rest of their life, guaranteed, no matter if they live until 120 years old, guaranteed $16,764 a year, just based off of $5,400 a year, 6.8% growth. They would have a $16,000 a year income tax-free off of this policy. That is, a little under $1,400 a month, or maybe just about $1,400 a month. How many people have you spoke to on the phone in the past couple days that make less than that a month? Everyone should basically be raising their hand unless you're only down some special leads that you should put me onto. So if people are earning less than that, I mean, they're going to be making a Social Security off of, like, they're probably going to be getting a Social Security check on top of that money as well. If they were a veteran, maybe they're getting a VA check on top of that. So this extra $1,400 alone, though, if this is the only income they're getting, this would still be more than a lot of the individuals that are receiving a fixed income. So that's really important to be able to know how to do and to be able to show individuals. And I love that personally. And I'm gonna go back to the hypothetical of someone maybe wanting to put more money into the policy. If they want to put more than this MEC premium will allow them, we'll go back to death benefit and funding here. And instead of a minimum death benefit, we'll do a balanced death benefit. That is just gonna make it a little bit higher. The cost of insurance is gonna be a little bit higher. Death benefits gonna be a little bit higher, but the MEC premium is also gonna be a little bit higher. So although they're paying a higher cost of insurance, they might be okay with that because they know they're going to be putting in a lot more money into the policy, potentially thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars more. So it will offset. You can see the initial face amount went from 80 something to 130 something, went up by an extra $50,000, which means obviously the cost of insurance goes up here, but the MEC premium goes up as well. So they can put more money into the policy. And let's see here. Let's say they never ended up putting any more money in, they only did the 450. The difference between the cash value here is about $15,000 to $20,000 difference at the end of the day. But that's also about a 10% difference. So if we're talking now adding an extra zero to there, it'd be a little bit more, so it's important to ask the client what their goals are when you're giving them those numbers. That way, if you maybe want to do a balanced death benefit or a minimum death benefit. Most of the time, it's just going to be minimum. Or if the individuals that expect to be making more money in the future than what they are able to do now, and the MEC premium that allows them to do it, just do a balanced death benefit. It gives them much more flexibility to do that in the future. Now, I do want to open it up for just a few questions because I know that was a lot, but what
So when you're
questions you guys
looking
got?
at the illustration, what is their monthly premium with the accumulation total that they're putting in right now?
Their monthly premium, again, but they're going to be putting in $450 a month.
Okay. And then plus the on top of whatever that's the 450 is just for the death benefit, right?
The 450 is how much we're putting in total. The actual death benefit, it's going to have its own cost of insurance. That right here would be this technically is the cost of insurance, this minimum
Uh-huh.
premium, this MMP. I tell the clients the minimum guaranteed premium because I'd rather they put that in and have no lapse guarantees if the cash value is ever negative. So I'll tell you like that this is the minimum this is the minimum premium you want to be putting away into the policy, the MGP, but you're able to put in up to the mech premium, the maximum. What's up, Armin? I see your hand up, bro.
Awesome. So with that being said, I know Americo offers an IUL, and I've done a few of those. I haven't done any with F&G or anything like that, mostly because it looks really complicated and I haven't learned it just quite yet. But why would you recommend or NLG? Why would you recommend NLG over Americo? What's the pros and cons of each of those?
What is the pros of doing like Americo versus Mutual Omaha versus like NLG?
Yeah, yeah.
NLG is the company I would do. I do all of my minimum death benefit max cash value solves. I do all that business through them. F&G is also a great option. I have nothing wrong with F&G. I personally, I love Larry. I love those guys from F&G. They have a fantastic product. I just have so much business with NLG that it doesn't make sense for me to switch all of a sudden. The commission is a bit higher for F&G, so maybe for newer agents at a lower comp, maybe it makes more sense to write F&G because it's a very comparable product. I personally like NLG more for reasons like they're a bit older, they have a much longer history, their living benefits are better. But any type of policy we're looking to maximize the cash value on, NLG or F&G is where I would go. I wouldn't go anywhere else. Anywhere else is putting the client in a worse position. And you need to know that. And then when they talk to other people like myself, I'm going to tell them that if that's the truth. I'm gonna be looking to replace certain policies that aren't working in the best favor for that client. I'm gonna be looking to add that value to them. So a mutual model, for example, a great easy solve IUL. Let's say dude's 45, wherever we're at doesn't matter. Let's do $100,000 death benefit here. We get an instant decision typically with these as well, so it'd be $90. Actually, I'll show you on here. It's a bit easier. Let's do a quick quote, show everybody how this works. If you haven't used this, you need to be using this like today. It's free and you can easily get to there. So let's do male in Florida, no tobacco use. He's 45 years old. Let's get to it. Simplified IUL, no health conditions. Thank God, the guy's healthy. Looking for 100K. Let's see what it looks like across all the carriers. The actual price of just a death benefit focused IUL. This is simply an easy solve, looking for the most amount of permanent coverage. America would be the cheapest, $88. The difference between these two policies with America and Mutual is not much. There's not much of a difference between them two. Um, that's just more so down to like your preference. They both have the same living benefits essentially with the IUL product. Um, I think Mutual Omaha does have slightly better no lapse guarantees than
Okay.
America. And then we looked at American Amicable. They'd be $95. NLG's Rapid Protect, that would be 101. They got Express Standard 120. So that's honestly, I haven't written any NLG Rapid Protect because it just seems like if I'm going to do a easy solve value, well, might as well just, they're not focused on the cash value. I'll just get them a mutual or an America. It doesn't matter to me. But now they're looking for something like the minimum death benefit max cash value, looking to use this as an investment vehicle for the retirement. I would be an absolute fool or just not know. But if you know this information and you still decide to set them up with like an America policy, or let's say mutual Maha, you're going to get them an easy solve mutual Maha IUL to maximize their cash value, and you're selling it to them like it's going to be their retirement income. Like, come on, man, you know better than that. You shouldn't be doing that. That's going to be a great policy for them. It's a permanent life insurance policy. I have so many easy solve IULs in the books. They're amazing policies. But at the end of the day, if someone tells me what their goals are, and I just blatantly ignore them and get them up something that's easier to sell at the moment, I'm not doing my job as an agent.
Sure.
So that's the biggest thing I definitely recommend to everybody is like if understand their goals first and foremost. They tell you their goals are being able to use it, for to accumulate cash. They're not super concerned about the death benefit. They know it's important though, and they can see the value in that. I would do NLG or FNG for any type of like retirement focused IULs. But if it's just death benefit focused and it's under 450 is the maximum for America, 300 is the maximum for mutual. I don't know what the maximum is for AMM. It just says right here 500,000. So if it's anything like, let's say, more than 500,000 or more than that number for for any type of death benefit focused IUL, NLG is also great because of their protection focused. Here, let's just go here. Death benefit funding.
So F&G and NLG are more intuitive and personable than like Americo and Mutual of Omaha, basically.
They're just going to be better for individuals that have the goal of building cash value. Though that's
Okay.
very simple. Those are better. If it's just death benefit focused, just they're just looking to get $100,000 of permanent life insurance. They don't really care so much about the cash value. Sell a mutual all day or America, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Now, if they're looking
Makes
for
sense.
over a million, let's say over 500,000, I would do something like this. Let's say $500,000 of coverage, protection focused IUL with NLG,
Do you have an Android?
just paying like regular, like let's say one through maturity,
Does that work for you?
Okay.
Okay. One second.
one through maturity. The plan premium is going to be pretty cheap. It's actually a good policy. I have a few of these in the books as well. How it kind of works is the initial face amount is less, and there's an additional rider. It's like an extra protection rider, but it's still permanent. But it's still a $500,000 net death benefit. That's really all that matters. So that would be $413 for their protection focus. IUL, I saw AMAM has the one for 500,000. So let's see what theirs looks like in terms of price compared to the fully underwritten protection focus. It doesn't show it because all right. 450 between these two. That's not the right one. Okay. That would be those prices. Let's go back to that's what actually it'd be cheaper than that. Let's go back to 450 here though.
Gersh, I got a quick question.
Yeah, what's up, bro?
So for example, say you're kind of a newer agent
Yeah.
and you have an NLG contract and an F&G contract. Which one would you say is kind of easier to navigate, like by
NLG is
yourself?
easier to NLG is 100% easier to navigate a
Okay,
million times out of 10.
thank
So,
you.
and the reason why, honestly, is because this EAP submission right here, if I put in, say my name, Gerson, my put a birthday in here, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna still keep it at 45. Let's just change it a little bit. Okay. So, EAP submission, just one click of a button. And I get to be in the application and it saves all the inputs I put in. I don't have to do any other guessing. I don't have to do any other bullshit. I have to log in again, but whatever. You get the point. F and G, you have to make the illustration. You have to go back to the EAP, input the same inputs you put in on the illustration into the application, and there's just room for error there, especially for new agents. And that's just not it's not worth the gamble, especially if you're talking about putting in um, multiple hundreds of dollars a month away into a policy for somebody. That's going to be, their retirement policy. They're putting a lot of importance on this, and it leaves too much room for like easy mistakes by inputting the information from the illustration wrong into the application. This way, it's like I know it all looks right. I don't have to mess with it anymore. EAP submission. Let's get to the application.
Facts.
I know the guys in that office, so they love F and G though. So you can tell them that Gersh that I said that.
Yeah, when Landon was here, man, that's when I like started running F&G, and I just always saw him smacking business with F&G. So I don't even have
He's
my NLG
great. I
contract.
love F and G, but again, like you said, for
Yeah.
new agents, NLG is always the move. I mean, in terms of easiest, if you're gonna be able to watch your agent, they'll probably get paid a little better off of F and G. So if you're gonna be able to watch them and make sure they don't mess it up, Have them write FNG. It's no problem.
Yeah, he's
It's not
frozen.
you.
I thought I froze. I was
No.
like,
All right,
Oh, I
awesome.
think he's back.
Yeah, you can hear me, right?
yeah, we hear you now.
I answer your question, brother?
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. All right, let's take a look at some more of these questions. Anyone else have questions? I'm getting to the chat right now.
I do.
Yeah, what's up, Adriana?
Okay, so I was just looking on TikTok. I literally look at stuff everywhere. And so I know TikTok's not the right area because it's just like opinions, but there is really a negative connotation regarding IULs and people feeling like they've actually lost money and
Hmm.
agents not disclosing information. And so no reasons of really what happened, but like from what I'm seeing online after looking is like these people are calling in because they're under the impression that, hey, I bill all this money and that they can like take their money whenever. But all these people, for whatever reason, they call in to cancel and they're being told that they've actually lost all of their cash accumulation due to whatever it is. And so I'm seeing that from like so many people, and I'm just like, okay, maybe I'm just not understanding what's really happening or what would result in someone losing cash accumulation if they were keeping up with their payments. But I want to be ready for that because everyone utilizes TikTok, everyone utilizes things, and of course, people want
Yeah.
to run with the negative side of things. So, like, why would cash accumulation be literally gone, or why would someone lose money?
So someone could lose money in an IUL only if they're not keeping up with their payments at all, like for an extended period of time, and the cash value would obviously help pay for the cost of insurance. So if there's no cash
Mm-hmm.
value to be had, that might require a client to be coming more out of pocket for their policy. All right, and there is a big negative connotation behind IULs is because people sell these easy solve IULs to clients and sell them a dream of having this retirement account builds cash value. But here's the reality: is let's say a Mutual of Omaha easy solve IUL, it doesn't have any available cash value, any surrender value at all till about year 5 or 7. So when we structure it properly for the minimum death benefit max cash value for something like LNG or FNG, we're gonna have cash value available immediately after immediately year 1. So that's where there's the big misconception. That's why it's our job as agents is like to learn how to sell these products properly and learn how to structure them correctly. Because they could be someone's worst policy they've ever had if they thought it was doing one thing and in reality it isn't, and they're not keeping up with the payments. Maybe they're getting capped on the interest rates and they thought it was growing for them in a certain way. A lot of the time people are buying the IULs but like maybe for the idea of like infinite banking is only going to work if you have money. It does not work for the broke people cannot use infinite banking the same way they're being sold it. It can work, just not in the same type of aspect. Because anyone who's dialed IUL leads consistently will attest to this. People are going to be able to put, let's say, maximum $100 a month away into their policy, and then they're going to be asking how soon they could take loans against it, and they want to buy real estate, and like they want to do these crazy things with their cash value. But it's like, man, we're putting $1,000 a year away into this policy. Like I don't know what you expect it to do. So it's really important to explain them correctly to the client and ask them. Like that's why I always ask, the first thing I do is, what is your goal? Like what do you want out of here? Because I saw someone in the chat say like, don't sell someone a dream to a 60-year-old putting $50 a month away. If they can't put at least 5 times their agent, I won't even sell them the policy. I'll do something different where, like, if let's say they're 60 years old, and if we're not going to be putting away 100 grand for the next 5 years, like what do you? There's no point of us having this policy because you want to be able to retire off it at 65 and you're 60 right now. You want to fund it for 5 years. We could do that, but you have to have some capital to put away. So I don't sell these policies to just anybody. It has to make sense for their budget, their age, their goals, and you're going to see a lot of negative connotation behind them. Also because people have their own agendas. You know, a lot of the time it's people from like Prime America, people, other insurance companies that don't aren't allowed to sell IULs or only sell whole life policies. So like, there's a lot of agendas behind those videos as well. Um, but I mean, they could be bad policies. I'd be stupid not to admit it. They could be bad if they're not structured correctly. Where, but at the end of the day, even an easy solve IUL is a great. It's a better permanent life insurance policy than a regular whole life final expense policy. It's going to be better for the client, and it's going to be cheaper for them too. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense because I just didn't understand why they're losing money. And I'm like, okay, well, now I'm scared to sell a product that the rest of the world is bad, but at my agency, everyone is, saying is good and it works in benefit of people. So I just was kind of like confused because I'm about to get on an IUL ad and I just want to be prepared. And I think like just the more I'm watching this training, I'm realizing like I don't know how. I feel like we're taught how to use Americo and Mutual of Omaha and Transamerica, but I really don't feel like everyone is taught about NLG and FNG and actually structuring an
Yep.
IUL because I mean, going into this, definitely was going to do a lot of easy solve or, just quick like that. But knowing that all these policies pretty much you can't touch the cash accumulation for at least 5 to 7 years compared to if you're structuring it, they can use it to their advantage within 1 year is definitely a huge important it's important, it's crucial.
If you ever have a client, you're not sure how to structure something, anybody can always come to me and I will help structure a policy for any of your clients, help you get on the phone and explain it to them. I have no problem doing that. But yeah, it's
Perfect,
important to be
thank
able to
you.
structure them correctly. I mean, if they're not structured correctly, if it's gonna be easy solve sold as a max cash value policy, expect it to be replaced and canceled because they're gonna learn the truth sooner or later. Someone's gonna call them like myself and be like, yeah, I mean, I've done this plenty of times where someone was sold a Mutual Maha IUL or Americo IUL, just easy solve, and they were sold it in a certain way. They're putting maybe a few $100s a month away into the policy. And like, yeah, I have a $400,000 policy with them, man. I'm set. It's like, oh man, that's a really high death benefit. That's a huge cost of insurance. Like, like what was your goal when you got that set up? Um, and then, I'll get to the question. Maybe I'll be able to help them. What's up, Harmon? This is the last question, and I gotta hop off.
Yeah, man. So I was gonna ask first if I could get your phone number to kind of go over a couple things later on, whenever you got
Absolutely.
time. And then for somebody that's wanting to get into IULs and somebody that, IULs excite me. I think they're a great way to get set up for the future. I think it's like probably the best way to do that, to prepare for the future. What would you say would be the best way for me to start learning how I can structure them and how I can approach them the correct way and make sure I'm adjusting for the right client? Would it just be kind of going through illustrations on NLG, F and G, or is there like a specific,
Look up
podcast or something?
look up Doug Andrew on YouTube.
No. Okay.
Yeah, from Three Dimensional Wealth. He's someone I learned a lot from as well when I first started. He's a dog. He's one of the OGs of the IUL space. And Adriana,
Fantastic. I'll get.
if you're still on here as well, and everyone should be looking him up. That's a great place to you know uh, see how to structure, why you do it. Even talking about the difference between this and a 401k, your Roth IRAs, why this might be better, how they could use it, how to max fund it, how to do. Like, he's a lot of consistent content. He's a dog. He's been doing IUL since they came out back in like the 80s, 90s. So definitely check him out. Doug Andrew. Listen, I appreciate all of you guys for hopping on, staying with me a little bit later on the call today. So you guys are awesome. I appreciate you for real. And if you guys need anything, actually, let me put my number in the chat here too for you, Harmon, as well. 305-813-4176. You can go ahead and just text me your name. If you're gonna put me in your phone, just text me your name so I can save you, just so I know who's texting me. Yeah, should be good to go, guys. I appreciate you. Let's have a massive Tuesday. Let's have a huge rest of the week. Let's keep selling these IULs. Don't be forgetting to ask the golden question about annuities every single sale. Let's get to it. Come on.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yes, ma'am. God bless you guys. Take care.